changing my voice. They had changed this image. Okay, August 31st, 2009. This was my first official video from my old channel that was taken down. They covertly edited my look, but I did look pretty bad as I was recovering from quitting drinking alcohol. I quit May 4th, 2009. I did not look so young, and I was much more masculine, more sane looking. Didn't look like them. They try to, they're like approaching autism and Down syndrome you see on the news and models and commercials, right? And it is what it is, okay? That's what it is. It is what it is. But it's stupid to pretend that I look like that. Let's make it, I can't be clear enough. If I did look like that, I would just tell you. Why would I lie? You see what I'm saying? I'm 41 years old, okay? It's not like I'm trying to impress some hot young chick. They're only impressed by complete clown cowards that hate God with all their heart enough to rebel when his son has come back. Never forget that. So here I have the transcript, and again, the transcripts are not perfect. I can't clarify that enough for you. Okay, transcripts on YouTube at this time, in 2023, in March, they're not very accurate. But it's accurate enough for me to explain to you how I was basically on the money the whole time in 2009. Okay, so it says, okay, a few deities are important, Moloch and Baal. I'm supposed to say Baal, and I'll get into them later. Also Osiris, Horus, and instead of Almond Ra, it's Amon Ra. Now, whites long ago, the Greeks specifically used to go to Egypt and learn, including Herodotus. They used to travel down the rivers, the many rivers they have there, and they would get as far. Okay, so I got interrupted anyway. They would get as far as they could inland, and they would notice as much as they could, and they would learn from them, and they would trade with them. Okay, now Alexander the Great even laid in a sarcophagus for 3 days and 3 nights in Egypt. So, and this is well recorded in history. I'm kind of reading the transcript and kind of, explaining it to you. And this is well recorded in history as well. So there is obvious connections to white people stealing black ideas, okay? Egypt is a Greek word meaning black. Kemet meant the land of the blacks, okay? And Herodotus, of course, recorded them as being people who are dark-skinned and having woolly-like hair. And of course, here in the video, my hair's that long, and it was woolly-like because I'm mixed African patriarchal line. Now, who was from an African patriarchal line, and who was from a Persian one, who was from an Assyrian one, Babylonian one? Okay, that's a bit more confusing. Okay, when we look at the depictions, but that's a part of it. The kind of culture clash, culture war, what have you. And again, it takes a stupid caveman ass, bitch ass, coward ass nationalist or some idiot globalist to look at things in terms of their race. Saying, oh, well, my race was doing it, instead of looking at things in terms of right and wrong. Right? Ver in virtue means man, not tribalism means man. Ver in virtue means man. So they're not manning up. There's a bunch of children with clubs or something, and the modern day equivalent of it, going around in some country club, some social club, some nightclub, acting and every other kind of grouping, people come in and acting like bitches. It's fucking pathetic. Anyway, so where was I? Okay. The Egyptians were, okay, when I said the many rivers they had down there, it has to do with semantics, right? There's rivers, estuaries, and streams, right? It's kind of like bodies of water that are like rivers that people were, were following, like the Nile Delta, right? The Nile breaks into kind of different, I guess they're called estuaries, okay? Even right now I don't have the word, but that's what I was getting at. Okay, and a Kemet means the black land. Okay, it means the land of the blacks, not just the black land. And the reason that has to do with the wordplay there. Okay, you say, okay, why are we calling this the black land? Okay, why does the Bible say man was made from the dust? Right? It has to do with them saying that the sun has changed them. The fertile black land of Horus. It has to do with this stuff. So they're actually referring to what's simply put as black people's kind of culture, the soul of black people, that's expressed in the land, okay? But it's, there's also the dark side twist. The Satanists would interpret this as the darkness of night, which is symbolic of evil, okay, and the unknown, and the creepy feeling you get, and so on and so forth. Okay. Well, the Egyptians were people that were far more advanced than other peoples, like the Native Americans built pyramids too, but they did not have the huge blocks. They didn't have the mathematical same caliber, and they weren't of the same knowledge, and they weren't as old. Even so, we look at the ancient empire as the king of other empires that taught the other races. Now, that's basically true. Now, again, whether you like the Native American pyramids or not, I mean, and the structures they have, and I think it's Machu Picchu or something. It's been a while. Pardon me for slaughtering it. Okay, those are important historical artifacts, and to understand, and so on and so forth. My intention wasn't to. Okay, I was interrupted again. Basically, I like a lot of things about a lot of cultures, but they're outside of the divine order, and that's all there is to it. Okay, so it taught the other empires how to kind of have their own empire and how to do it right. And other people would go there and marvel at the pyramids and marvel at the temples of the sun, the temples and the different gods with a little g, temple, and they would envy the Egyptians. And the Persians would eventually invade them in the BC. And in the BC, during the foreign period, I suppose say foreign, not foreign, the Romans and the Greeks would also invade for a while. And then finally the Arabs, after Islam, invaded in the 7th century, and this is why Egyptians are Arab-like to this day. Now you see in the Sudan that Arabs are killing off blacks just like they did in Egypt, because this is part of not only the conquest for Islam, but conquest for the Arab people, and they want to cover up the fact that these people were these people were black. These people were black and not Arab. Okay. Let's stop there for a second. It is the white Jew and LGBT community, to put it simply, have some kind of genes in common with the Arab people. Patriarchal lines. This goes back to the deities of the Middle East, like Baal and El and Ishtar and Inanna, and so on and so forth, right? Mesopotamian deities, Sumer, okay, Babylon, what have you. Okay, these people spread out. It's mainstream history. It's not speculation. Okay, when the Semites migrated into Rome, they became the who's who of the Roman Empire, and then from there they occupied parts of the Middle East. Okay, the Jewish people were occupied by the Romans, and the Romans replaced their patriarchal lines with theirs. Basically, it's not entirely that simple, but basically, and certainly they culturally replaced them 100%, and they Roman washed, which really Semites who migrated to Rome, who started looking white, Roman washed, the Jewish religion, which was already heavily flawed. We'll get to that later. All right, where are we here? That the blacks migrated west as the Arabs invaded from the east, and a lot of the real descendants of the ancient Egyptians are the people of West Africa and Central African countries for that reason. So let us get more into the Greeks, specifically Socrates and Plato and all these so-called great minds, but I would argue that they're in secret societies that took ideas from the secret societies of old and merely made them public. And a lot of them were writing books and poems based on ideas that they had learned from the people they conquered, from their context with and from their context with the ancient mystery schools. Okay, which would evolve into the secret societies, so that's why I call them secret societies. The ancient Egyptians themselves also called themselves Kemal. Not supposed to say Kemal, but Kemal, meaning black god people. Okay, people of the black land, because God's spirit, right? It's like in 1 John, right? In the beginning was the Word. John 1. In the beginning was the Word, and the Word was with God, and the Word was God, right? In the beginning, right? They say that man was made from the dust. So they look at the land in Africa, and they say they're brown and black like the fertile soil by the Nile. Okay, they're full of fertility, right? And so when you look at the white-skinned people, right, they associate that more with not being as fertile, right, as being of Set, right? They say Set, his skin was red. So white people, when they get in the sun, their skin turns red. So it's something to that effect, right? So there's people who were like Berbers, those white-skinned people from Europe to some degree, the Greeks who came around from time to time, and it probably predates Herodotus to some degree. They had contact with them to some degree before Herodotus, okay? And therefore, okay, that Set was associated with white people, especially red-headed white people. And of course, white people themselves historically talk bad about redheads, right? Now, I don't care if you have red hair or not. It has something to do with gene expression and the frequency of certain personality traits. Okay, and a shout out to redhead people. I this. No, I'm not racist, so this is just the facts here. Okay, where are we here? All right, so ancient Egypt, Jesus comes from the story of Horus and Osiris and Isis. Okay, that's why you have the Genesis, the genes of Isis. Okay, well, when you look deeply into the Egyptians and to the Jews, the Jews learned a lot from them. So basically, we have this migration of people toward Africa. So in the Bible, and I've done lots and lots of research and videos into this, we see that in Acts, okay, that it flat out says that Moses learned the ways of the Egyptians and became a man who was powerful in speech and in action. And he does things that go beyond what Abraham did, right? And it says that Cush, Ham begot Cush, Cush begot Nimrod, and Nimrod was the first mighty warrior, the mightiest warrior, a mighty hunter, a mighty warrior before the Lord in Genesis 10. So it flat out says that the true power, the true martial force of God came from black people, okay? And that they're trying to then say that they got the credit after that. Because at the time when they wrote the story, everyone knew that black people were the true spiritually powerful people of the world, right? The Egyptian pyramids, the mighty warriors, the Tatib, the stick fighting. So they already knew they were trying to steal kind of the credit and claim that the spiritual order then goes through them, which it doesn't. Okay, this is key in understanding that. And when I say the story of Horus, the story of Jesus comes from the story of Horus. It comes from the story of the original Horus, which is the top martial artist, the son of God. The idea of justice and true martial power, true romantic power, spiritual, true mental power, true brain power, true willpower, true martial art principles, character, heart, maturity, okay, sense, honesty, fairness, good judgment, okay. The health that comes with it, and so on and so forth. Okay, the natural health. Sabotage obviously confuses this, but you get what I'm saying. Okay, it comes from, because the story of Isis, Horus, and Osiris comes from the original story of Horus, right? They stole it and with the cults of Isis and Osiris and wrote themselves into it as they started as they started becoming more powerful as cults in Egypt, right? They're kind of aligned cults, okay? And we see how Amun-Ra and Min has a fake version of Horus, Min-Hor, Con-Hor from Khonsu, Amun's son, and so on and so forth. Okay, so again, this is, I said we'd get into this stuff later, and we got into this stuff quite a bit since 2009 when this video was made. All right. All right, so it looks like we're going to have to make a part 2, so let me just wrap it up to 5 minutes on this video, and this video ends at 8 minutes, so part 2 should be short. I encourage you to see it. Okay, so they take credit for them. They take credit for themselves, and they make the deities to white deities. Okay, for example, in ancient Babylon, you had these gods that were from African people who brought these gods to the Middle East. Like Nana, the god of the moon, and Utu, the god of the sun, etc. Okay, and Nimrod, he was Noah's great grandson, right? He's Noah's descendant, right? So it's hard to say, according to the Bible, what they're getting at, but more or less they're getting at gene expression. Say, Cush was the ancestor, not necessarily literally the father of Nimrod, right? The ancestor, right? They descends from a direct descendant, right? A gene expression, okay? A patriarchal gene expression, a particular gene expression, groupings of genes and so on and so forth. Okay, it comes together. It's kind of like me in this picture, right? The greatest martial art expression. So this is me in 2009, August 2009, and this is me either at the end of 2011, 2 years later, or a little over 2 years later, at the beginning of 2012. You see the back structure, right? You see the shoulder structure here. Again, they've edited the picture to make it look less impressive, make me seem less coordinated. I wasn't quite getting back into martial arts super tough at that time, but I still had a body from years of basketball and martial arts that I eventually forged into this. And you kind of see with the blue rag, hanging in the background, the hat, the white T-shirt, a kind of Crip look to me, because I was always thinking in terms of fighting and surviving, and what would I have to do if I had to shoot someone or stab someone? How would I come out on top? As the top martial artist ever. You know what I'm saying? I was the most dangerous guy in the streets in that regard. In terms of carrying guns and stuff, no. In terms of mentality and what would happen if I truly felt it was on, yes. You see what I'm saying? All right. And of course, I have a moral code, and I talk about that in great detail. So let's end it here.